everybody. Welcome to Dive In, the podcast, everyone's favorite podcast about freediving, tech diving, scuba diving, all of it. Today, we're going to talk about the COVID-19 pandemic and how it's affecting diving both locally and everywhere else. We're going to cover it in depth on this episode so we can really look at it. In future episodes, we'll focus on other diving topics, but today we're going to talk about what this all means for diving. Before we get into this anymore, let me introduce who's here with us today. My name's Justin, one of your four hosts. Also with me, Nicholas Winkler.
Hi, I was here on the last episode, and I'm the freediving instructor here at Torpedo A and vice president of Halifax Freediving Club, and I'm also an underwater photographer.
April, you were here last time.
Yeah.
Give us a refresher about you.
Just a little refresher. I'm a PADI open water scuba instructor. I run the local women's dive club here, member of the Nova Scotia Underwater Council, and I love all aspects of scuba diving.
And our fourth host, who was not here last time but is with us tonight, Nicholas Winkler. How are you? Nicholas Fisher. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic tonight. So a little bit about myself. I wasn't able to make our first recording, unfortunately, but hoping to make it up today. I'm also a PADI open water scuba instructor. I started my diving career in Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is not a lot of ocean in the prairies, but we found some lakes, and when viz is about 2 feet, you gain a certain bit of expertise and some pretty awful diving, but happy to be out on the coast and happy to be here on the podcast.
Thanks, everybody. We're going to jump into it in a second, but I just want to thank everybody for listening right off the start. We may not have been on your favorite podcast app last week on the last episode. We should probably be there today. Just today, we got officially on the whole Google thing. We hit iTunes and all that other stuff, so we should be searchable at the point that you listen to this. So if you're listening online, open up your phone, find your podcast app, and search in Dive In, the podcast, and see if you can find us. I really apologize. Our name sounds great to us, but there's a lot of dive in stuff on podcasts
that have
apps.
Nothing to do with diving.
Have nothing to do with diving. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. So April, how'd that April Fool's joke go?
Yeah, how did everybody enjoy our episode 1.5? I think everybody was quick to realize that it was an April Fool's joke. Maybe if you didn't realize it's an April Fool's joke, then April Fools, that was a joke.
Everyone's been flooding the shop looking for their weed air.
Yeah, I must say, to date, we haven't had any requests for weed air, so that has restored my faith in the diving community a little bit.
Yet somehow I feel like I failed a little.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, in case you didn't listen to the April Fool's Joke podcast, that was episode 1.5. It should be right in between this episode and episode 1. Take a listen and let us know what you thought about that.
I think it's important to throw in, we obviously do not condone the use of marijuana and diving together. Please keep those separate.
This brings up a good point. April was very concerned about people believing this was real.
I was very concerned. I hold our dive community to a high standard, and I'm very interested in the safety of everyone involved.
Awesome. Well,
Awesome.
I say things. Now, speaking of safety, let's talk about what it's like to dive during the COVID-19 pandemic. Canadian leaders have a lot to say about personal responsibility during this time.
Each of us have to live up to our end of the bargain. We must fulfill our collective responsibility to each other. Listening to public health rules is your duty. Staying home is your way to serve. So be smart about what you do, about the choices you make. That is how you will serve your country and how we will all serve each other. How well we do this right now determines where our country will be in 2 weeks or in 2 months. It's in our hands. It's in your hands.
Nova Scotians, most people by and large are adhering to this, and I thank them. But there still are Nova Scotians who are looking for loopholes, ways to get around this. Now is not the time to be thinking about how I can get out and continue my usual activities. Now is the time for us to stay close to home, minimize our interaction with others, protect each other. As the Prime Minister said earlier today, this is a very unusual and unique circumstance and critical situation in our country, and it is the duty of all of us as Canadians and Nova Scotians to support, do what's necessary, do what we're being told and asked to do for the safety of all of us.
I'm not trying to scare you, but part of me wishes you were scared. This is serious, and another weekend is upon us. I am so tired of hearing of grocery stores, Walmart, Tim Horton parking lots filled with cars, as if we are not in the midst of a deadly pandemic. We are. To the reckless and selfish, I am talking to you. A group gathering in a house, unnecessary trips outside, blatant disregard, the virus will find you. Then it finds your loved ones, and then it finds your neighborhoods, and then we have community spread. And then everyone is putting pressure on the public health to solve it, our healthcare system to deal with it, and government to pay for it, when all we have to do is stay the blazes home.
The voices you just heard of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Nova Scotia's Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Robert Strang, and Premier of Nova Scotia, Stephen McNeil, really set the tone for diving in the near future. Nick, I think you wanted to talk about this, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think as we heard in the introduction, right? I mean, we've been told by officials, both federally and provincially, to stay home, and this is sort of a really extraordinary time, unprecedented time for our generation, and our responsibility to do our part is to stay home. So, you know, the discussion that really you shouldn't be going diving in the first place. You should really set an example for your community and try to keep people safe, especially the first responders and the people in the front line that are going to be working. You know, if you were to venture out and have, you know, if you were to break those rules and you were to go out diving, what would happen if you hurt yourself getting in the water with all your gear, or, even worse, if you had, an accident of decompression sickness or something like that. You'd really be putting a huge strain on resources in the healthcare system that people are working really hard day and night to free up. So for this surge of cases that people are expecting in the next weeks, I was reading an article. Somebody tried to go cave diving in a part of southern Switzerland, and it's a cave system that's already been put off limits, and people were arrested for having a fake permit or detained. I don't know if they were actually arrested. But not only that, but they were doing it in a region of Switzerland that's under a state of emergency and in one of the worst places affected in that country for COVID-19. So there's really no need to be diving at this time. So from a safety point of view, you just should be staying home. And we have, and not to be sort of all negative, right? But that's really our responsibility as a dive community to play our part. And we have, in the discussion at podcast, we have a whole bunch of really interesting things that you can do to stay active and stay engaged with the sport that you love.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to do a little round robin here and talk about some of the different things that we can do on our extra long surface interval while our gills are diving out. I see if I can get in all of the scuba diving jokes, dad jokes that everybody always says.
Scuba puns.
Yeah, all my scuba puns. And that's starting with some dive theory review, right, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. So while we're all indoors, it's an awesome time to be able to go back over some old material, learn some new things about diving. There's a ton of resources that are available that pertain to the world of diving, environmental, physiological, or just general sort of dive theory that you can keep up on. And it's really important to remain active with that as divers in the community. But if you are still considering going diving or starting diving, there's also a bunch of courses that you can start without actually getting in the water before you get in the water. The open water course can be started online before you even need to, put a wetsuit on. So using resources like that would be a great way to still be able to get into the community without, while still being in quarantine.
Right.
I think one thing there too, if you were interested in going pro, now would be a great time to do that. With all the Dive Master online learning and all the instructor online learning. I know when I had to do all that, I found it hard to squeeze it all in. So if you're sitting at home and you're interested in going pro, now is a really good time to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And you don't have to be at that level to start. So if you're an advanced open water diver, want to do your rescue diver, but plan on doing your dive master, say this fall, you can start that dive master e-learning anytime, or instructor e-learning anytime. So get going on that whenever you want.
It's a really good point.
Yeah, and the other thing is it's important to kind of, if you want to stay relevant and up to date on your theory for when you get back in the water in the coming months, the other thing to do is to stay fit and stay healthy, right? There's no point coming out of this quarantine if you're not healthy, because you're not going to be fit to go diving and you're not going to be a safe diver. So there's some really simple things you can do. We're still allowed to go out walking and running and do some cycling. So getting some cardio in, doing things like squats and push-ups and sit-ups, that will help with, carrying gear and just keeping you generally fit. We have a couple of links that we're going to include in the show notes for that. So those are things you can do outdoors, or you can do inside, and those are really good things to sort of keep you, a little bit on the mentally sane side in these times. A lot of people are struggling with being cooped up indoors, and divers are probably one of those groups of people that are used to just going out and not being able to go in the ocean, right? That's really hard. And as free divers, for example, we do a lot of breathing, a lot of meditation. So that can really help with just your mental health. And we can share some resources in that too. But that's not just sort of restricted to free diving. What I found when I'm teaching free diving courses for people that are scuba divers, when they go back scuba diving, their air consumption and just their general sense of relaxation when they're breathing on the water actually improves significantly. So just, stretching, walking, running, doing some yoga. There's a lot of gyms locally, so you can support your local businesses, and a lot of yoga studios that are doing online courses that you can tap into through Zoom. So there's a lot of resources that are there to stay healthy during this time and keep you fit and ready for when you can go diving again.
Those are good. On the lighter side, and maybe something I find myself doing a lot of recently with 2 kids in the house, and that's watching movies. There's lots of great dive movies, specifically diving, like Men of Honor, and then kind of off diving, The Big Blue, Finding Nemo. You can do some documentaries, Chasing Coral, BBC Blue Planet. There's lots of stuff on there. Netflix. I think everybody these days has got a Netflix subscription, an Amazon Prime subscription, and maybe a Crave subscription. At least for me, between those 3, there's like an unlimited amount of stuff to watch that has diving related. And that reminds me, one of the things I would like to do on the show sometime in the future is we can do a diving movie review or commentary. I think it would be a lot of fun.
I was going to say you could do a whole podcast just on movies.
I imagine you can find a movie podcast or 2, but how many diving movie podcasts can you find? You can subscribe to some scuba diving magazines. A lot of people get the generic Sport Diver magazine. Not that it's generic, but it's the PADI magazine. And a lot of people who get certified get that certification almost automatically, or that source automatically. But there's a couple others out there like Dive Magazine, Dive Training Magazine, Diver. There's a theme in these, the names of these diving magazines. And Dive Ventures is another one there. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of them. You can get digital subscriptions too.
Actually, I was just this is making me think there's a magazine called Oceanographic that came out about a year and a half ago, and it's sort of it's really cool. It's about conservation in the oceans and exploration. And it's different from your typical dive magazine. It's really a large format tabletop, like kind of coffee tabletop kind of magazine. And when I subscribed to it, I was like, just maybe when I want to save on paper and just get the electronic version. And actually, you can only get the electronic version if you subscribe to the print version. And at first, I was like, that's a little annoying. But when you actually get the magazine in your hand, you realize why you actually want the print copy, because the imagery and the layout is just mind blowing. So if you really want to get into something high quality, I'd consider that. And we can include the link in the show notes there.
Yeah, definitely. We'll add that. Hi everyone, I just wanted to take a second to thank our sponsor, Torpedo A Scuba. Torpedo A's is a local dive shop in Nova Scotia. If you're not in Nova Scotia, that's okay. They've got a wonderful website, torpedorays.com, torpedorays.com. All of the scuba gear you could ever need is there. If you can't find it, give Jason a call, 902-481-0444, and he'll be happy to help you out. And these challenging times, it's always great to shop local. Don't go to a huge big box. Help support your local dive shop. Buy something you've had your eye on. Excellent time to make a good deal. Buy a gift certificate to use later. Whatever the case may be, Torpedo Rays and torpedorays.com will be there for you. Once again, their number is 902-481-0444 or torpedorays.com. Coming up a little later in the show, Nicholas will have an excellent recommendation for us with our weekly book recommendations that will help you stay connected to diving. But you can also, stay connected to your buddies, April?
Yeah, I know with the Sea Foxes, we've been doing a lot to try and stay connected in this time. So in our Facebook group, I gotta say, since everybody's been on isolation, it's been lit in there. Like every day, we've had some good conversations. People are posting, kind of like yesterday we played bingo in our group. Today we had a thing, post your funniest dive photo. So every single day we're doing something to kind of communicate with each other and just keep that community feel going. This Sunday is actually our anniversary. We plan to have a Zoom call. So even though we can't dive, we're all kind of just going to sit down and talk, and it'll be nice to kind of celebrate together in the circumstances that we're in.
Definitely. And you guys made a sweet meme pass around.
Yeah, so we were inspired by an account called Girls That Scuba, which we all kind of follow. They posted a photo for kind of themselves to show how they're isolating, even though they are a club. So we recreated it. So everybody at home was holding their own little sign. When you put them all together, they say, "We are all in this together. Stay at home, flatten the curve." We kind of decided to do this. It was, well, number one, it was just a fun activity for the club to do and stay connected. But it also, I think, shows kind of what our stance is on this, and that we do believe that you shouldn't be diving right now. And that even though we are all very, very passionate about diving, we're making the sacrifice to not dive right now to flatten the curve.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in there and add a little update from our first episode. The Halifax Freediving Club is going to host a session in collaboration with ADA Canada, and we're actually going to have Sheena McNally, who's the Canadian national and continental record holder. She's going to start off on what we hope is going to be a series to connect Canadian freedivers across Canada, and even those that are currently abroad. So we're going to host a virtual series on Zoom called the Great Canadian Virtual Get Together. Yeah, so that's our efforts to do that, and we're doing sort of trying to keep everybody connected.
I think it's really important, too, for everybody to stay talking and stay in contact with one another because, like, realistically, my day-to-day revolves around scuba and this industry and the shop and the clubs. So staying connected with the clubs is kind of making this all seem a little bit more normal. Doing these podcasts and talking to you guys is making this seem a little bit more normal. Yeah. Whereas definitely. I think maybe if I was just sitting at home, not talking to anybody, just, working away on my papers and watching movies, it would be very depressing in a way. So this is actually keeping me slightly sane.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting because as we were planning this virtual get-together for freedivers, we came to realize that it would actually probably be the first time that we try to engage the entire freediving community virtually, coast to coast to coast. So it's having sort of this other effect of actually getting people together that otherwise may never meet each other. Earlier this year, the ADA Canada AGM were discussing, competitions at a national level, and one of the big challenges, Canada's a huge country, so getting people from the west out east, and there was even a discussion, could you even realistically split a competition into two sides and combine the results? Ironically, now we are here, like, all getting together as a really big community. So hopefully that plays out well. And yeah.
Nick, you sent me that article because I was ranting to you guys about how I'm feeling overwhelmed, and schoolwork seems so abnormal right now, and it's hard to focus on things that normally, it would take me 2 hours to write a page, and it's taking me like 9.
No, but I think it was basically saying, it's okay to not feel like you're just gonna continue a normal life day to day and just pretend as if nothing's happened. And it was sort of saying it's okay to accept that, and it doesn't mean that you've been defeated. It just means you're dealing with it in a particular way. There's a lot of people online that are like doing these Instagram videos where they're being super productive, and it just, if you look at those and you're like in this situation, well, I can't function with all this. You're just going like, how the hell are these people doing that? And really, the article was saying it's okay to just kind of just change your lifestyle a little bit and adapt, right? Because we might be in this for a while.
Our whole world is flipped upside down. So I think the idea of trying to stick to your normal day-to-day lifestyle is a little bit crazy right now. If your world has completely changed, it's hard for your lifestyle to stay the same. So that being said, I think everybody, it's okay to relax right now. I think it's okay to, change your day-to-day and sleep in a little later, wear your sweatpants, like whatever you got to do right now to kind of get through this change, I think is okay.
Yeah. How's the other Nick and Justin coping right now?
Things are definitely different. I've gotten to spend a lot more time with my son than I normally do. Got to spend the last couple of weeks with the little guy, so he's been adjusting to that as well. Like, why is this guy staying so long? He's usually just here in the mornings and back at night. But all things have been good, and sort of ups and downs between my other jobs. So that's kind of helped that sort of maintained. I definitely get what April's saying in terms of school, that it's hard to make things seem normal when they're really not. And it's going to be interesting to see going forward how much of this is going to stay, and even after this is all over, how much social distancing is just going to maintain, even if the pandemic sort of ends.
Yeah, it's a little different for us too. In my household, my partner is a project manager, and so she's easily works remotely because that's like, that's right in her wheelhouse. I've got the kids and, doing the stay-at-home dad thing right now, which is a bit of a change from a dive shop manager. But I'm keeping myself busy, obviously, with this podcast. I'm the one who does the editing on it. That's, 1 day a week, and a little bit of shop maintenance, and a lot of trying to make sure my kids just aren't watching their iPads 24/7. But what I really dream about is my next trip. Trip planning is another good way to deal with the stress of the COVID.
So where I'm just kind of curious, where would people want to go? Like each of you, dream dive trip. I'll put you in the spot there. Eh?
There's so many places that
just
I
pick one.
Want to go.
First one that comes to mind.
I really want to do the Philippines. I was in Fiji a number of years ago. Diving was fantastic there.
I was going to say, I think Fiji's mine, but
Philippines is, supposed to be potential for even better than Fiji. So that's definitely high on my list.
I'd have to go with South Africa.
Oh, sorry, Nick.
No problem.
South Africa?
South Africa for sure.
Do they have something there in South Africa that makes
I want white sharks.
Dive? Oh, yeah.
The sardine run.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nick took that one from me. I think the Galapagos would be a close one too.
Mm-hmm.
I think two for me. One would be Iceland, just to do the tectonic plates dive. I've heard that it's not super exciting, but it's just a bucket list thing for sure.
I shout out to our old shop instructor, Rob Fairweather, who spent a few months working up there, leading dives in Silfra, touching some tectonic plates. Pretty cool.
It is very cool. What one thing I heard too is, I think it was Jeff Harding told me this, but you could like drink the water as you're diving. So he would like take out his regulator and just kind of take a sip of the water and then keep going. I thought that was hilarious.
I guess you're in dry suit, so you don't have to worry about the person in front of you peeing.
No, you should be okay.
Another good option for passing the time is listening to this podcast.
Yeah, we're here. We're here to keep you entertained.
Yeah. Are you not entertained?
I'm setting the bar high.
You need the cutaway to the What was that movie with Russell Crowe? He's in a
Gladiator?
Are you not entertained? It might be called our Gladiator. That's it.
Are you not entertained?
I'll never make it on.
Are you not entertained?
Anyway,
I think you would.
Is this not why you are here?
and I also got to give a shout out to Torpedo Rays. And the other thing you can do during this time is support your local dive shop. Even if Torpedo Rays isn't your local dive shop, call up your local dive shop, go on their website, order a gift certificate, buy a gift certificate from them. Even if you don't need anything this minute, later on, you're going to need some air fills. You're going to need a new dive computer. Get a $20 gift certificate, get a $100 gift certificate, whatever's in your budget. Dive shops all around the world are going to be challenged, and local businesses of all sorts, not just dive shops, could all use a helping hand there. So that's a good way to affect some change.
I think, like, kind of what you're going off there, Justin. I don't know if I should be dropping names or not, but Amit came in and he was like, I still have my job, so I'm doing okay. There's a flashlight I've had my eye on for a while. I know that times are tough and you guys rely a lot on tourism and your business is not going to be the same, so I'm just going to buy this flashlight now. I've been looking at it for a long time. I think now's a good time to get it, which I thought was, like, super nice because it's true. And we all kind of have that piece of gear that we have our eye on. I know not everyone is in the same boat. I know a lot of us are dealing with layoffs. A lot of people are financially strained right now. But I think if you can, and not just dive shops, but I think every local business, try to support them. Try to support small business right now. It's super, super important.
Yeah. Even if it's just getting takeout from the local pizza shop instead of the Pizza Hut or something.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pizza Hut. Yeah, that definitely helps.
Some other ways that you can support dive shops or other small local businesses right now. A big thing is social media. Help their growth, so you can leave a review. You can comment on some of their posts. You can like their posts. Give them a shout out. Any of those ways is really helping these businesses, and you don't have to spend a penny.
Yeah, definitely lots of stuff you can do for free when the bounce back comes and people are looking for what's that best whatever, and they see there's a bunch of 5-star reviews and good things like that. That'll just help a ton. But what we want to know is when this bounce back comes, how do you think this is going to change the dive industry? How is it going to affect what you're going to do on your next trip, maybe? Or just what do you think? We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to get some feedback, especially if you're a shop manager or owner. We feel like we talk a lot to just your average scuba diver, but there's professionals out there, there's owners out there, professional owners, a little bit of everything. We'd love to hear from you. You can shoot us an email at divein.thepodcast@gmail.com. And just let us know, or shoot us a message on social medias. We'll have all that stuff in the show notes, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Nick, why don't you tell us a little bit about your segment, Think Blue?
As a renowned marine biologist, explorer, and ocean advocate, Sylvia Earle once wrote, "Even if you've never had the chance to see or touch the ocean touches you, and with every breath you take, every drop of water you drink, and every bite you consume. Everyone, everywhere is inextricably connected and utterly dependent upon the existence of the sea. As divers, we have the unique privilege to experience the ocean in a way that most people never get to. We have the privilege to peek, to explore beneath that thin blue line, to see the amazing marine life, to go to amazing places and share these experiences with our friends. And that's really a unique privilege that comes with a responsibility as divers. We have a responsibility to be stewards of and advocates for our oceans that are both fragile and imperiled. These are the oceans we call our playground, and for many of us here on the coast and in other places, it's our backyard. So we want to do a little feature. It's going to be called Think Blue for the podcast, and it's going to explore ocean issues. And really what I want to do is sort of bring awareness to a lot of ocean issues that are relevant, but also find ways to make that relevant to divers, to minimize your fin print on the ocean, so to speak, and anything from your everyday life that you might do at home to the way you might be shopping or selecting products, to how you might be choosing, an operator to go with when you're traveling, to your actual diving. So we're going to make those really important ocean issues kind of relevant to you, and in a way that they're not abstract, right? Not these because some of these issues can be really big and really scary, and you go like, what can I do? And there's actually a lot of things that scuba divers and free divers and divers in general can do for the oceans that we love and enjoy when we go diving.
That's awesome. I love that. I think it's super important.
Do you have a book recommendation for us this week, Nick?
Yeah. So last week's recommendation was about technical cave diving, Jill Heineth's book Into the Planet. This week, I'm just going to sort of swing it all the other way around to free diving. So the recommendation this week is the book called Oxygen by William Trubridge. And Trubridge is a New Zealand competitive freediver that holds the record for the deepest unassisted dive. So that is swimming down and up without fins, 102 meters or 334 feet. That was set at Dean's Blue Hole on Long Island in Bahamas in 2016. In 2010, William Trubridge became the first human to dive unassisted to 100 meters or 328 feet. So in his book, Oxygen, William talks about his upbringing on a sailboat, his formative years, and really when he sort of discovered freediving. In that moment, he decided to take it up professionally. He talks about his training with the legendary Umberto Pellizzari, the Italian world record holder, and his discovering Dean's Blue Hole and his search for somewhere ultimate to train. And he talks about his training and his philosophies and his approaches and some of the things he's developed over the years. But it also really, there's a lot of important lessons to draw from failures. Getting to 100 meters didn't happen overnight. There was a lot of failures along the way. So he tells this story, what it took to become the world's deepest unassisted human being. And it's a really fascinating story for any diver, whether you're a scuba diver or not, free diver or not. It's a really awesome book to read. And it's available as a ebook for I think $11 Canadian. So it's pretty easily accessible.
Yeah, really good value. I really blame my parents too for not raising me on a sailboat sailing around the world.
I think we all can.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. That is a fantastic recommendation there, Nick. Great book. Now that we're on iTunes and now that we're in all the other social media podcast apps, if you can review, or rate us on any of those things, that would be fantastic, including our YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Any of that stuff will help kind of build this podcast up, get more listeners so we can do more things for you. And you can find all of our social medias at Dive In the Podcast. Well, we've covered a lot today in a short episode. We've talked about the difficulties of social distancing and the responsibilities of divers, but we've talked even more about the positive things you can do, how you can improve, how you can be ready, and how you can support local dive shops and everyone in general. It might be a little challenging in some moments, but just remember, we're all connected. We all have support, and we're all here willing to support you guys. So I just want to say thanks to everybody for helping host tonight. Nicholas, thank you.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you in the water soon.
And April, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Justin. And everybody, stay safe and take care, and hopefully we'll be back in the water before too long.
Nick?
Yeah,
How was your first show?
Oh, it was great first show.
I threw you a curveball there.
Yeah, I didn't get the last. Didn't know I was going to get the last question here. Not great to be on the show. Thanks for having me on. Hopefully we can use this as an awesome forum to both kill some time before we can get back into the water, but also keep this community connected.
I couldn't say it any better myself, so I'll leave it at that. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.